Hi everyone. This is a real short webcast, number 4 of week 4, and it's basically a continuation of the previous one called Using Guides. And I wanted to just pull this real quick Smart Guides webcast out to talk a little bit about a different type of guide that we can turn on and off. I'm just going to go back to this guides file where we have all of these different images. And zoom in just a little bit here. One of the options on the Grids and Guides menu is this option called Smart Guides. It's turned on by default. And as you move an object around, it's going to be hard not to notice that all of these lines start jumping on your page and then leaving. At first, it's a little overwhelming, and I know when I first saw this feature, which came about, I believe, in CS4, my first reaction was to just turn this thing off because it was driving me nuts. But as you work with it, you will be shocked at how quickly your brain turns off that information until you want it. What these Smart Guides do is they give you kind of a spontaneous alternative to ruler guides. If I wanted to align, I don't know, let's say this particular otter with the center of the penguin, I would have typically had to, in the past, before I had Smart Guides, I would click on this penguin, I would drag the guide down till it aligned to the center, and then I would have to use my arrow keys, whatever it took to align the centers of these two items. Or I would select them both and I would say that I wanted to use the align command, which we haven't gotten to yet, to do that same thing. And I do use this align command a lot in InDesign. This is my best buddy. I'll tell you, I think it's one of the best commands that InDesign has, the power that we have in that command. But Smart Guides allow me on the fly to make some design decisions. So as I drag this around, I can see number one right there. There's a pink guide that snaps across the page. That is telling me that I have hit an alignment to the center of the page because it's pink. If I move it close to one of these other objects, well, now I'm seeing another vertical one, which is telling me that the center of this otter image is aligned horizontally, and if I swing this just right, I can get both of these to pop up. And that's telling me now that this image is centered exactly on the page. But what if I want to try to align it to another object? So now I have this otter up next to these two birds on this tree branch, and notice that I see a green rule or a green guide that appears at the bottom, telling me that now these two images are bottom aligned. And if I drag up a little more to the top, I can see that now the two images are aligned at the top. And that's great. I mean, that gives me a lot of information, lets me make a lot of decisions. But the other one that I love is that it's also, I'm going to use this rectangle over here. As I move this, it's not only telling me that I'm right aligned, that this blue square is right aligned with the little penguin and the two birds on the branch, but it's also showing me that the spacing between the blue box and the penguin and the parrots is exactly the same. I'm seeing these double arrows telling me that the objects are arranged in a regular fashion with a gutter between them that matches. That is just incredibly powerful. So not only am I seeing my alignment, I'm seeing distribution information. And in some cases I can get two types of information at the same time. I'm going to drag this one down. And if I drag this one over here, Each time I've added one of these objects below, I'm checking to see if I see those two double arrows above and below the object, above it and then in between. And now I can pretty much guarantee that this white gutter between each of these images is exactly the same. Now I can also guarantee this using my align command because we have distribution information there. And when I get into describing this panel, you'll have to decide which you think is going to be the most efficient way for you to align things. But I absolutely love smart guides. And I'd like you to take several objects, either import some objects on the page, draw some circles and some rectangles. Doesn't have to be anything spectacular. And just take a few minutes to start dragging these objects around. See what types of the green and pink guides come up to show you how these are being spaced and how they're aligning. Just to get used to those things flashing in front of your eyes, and see if it's true that after a little while for you as well that this really starts becoming more of a subconscious thing, and it really is not as annoying as it is the very first time you start using it. Now in addition to these smart guides, we have something called smart dimensions. And this is what I was talking about in the previous webcast as well. As you move an object now, starting CS4, we have this little pop-up that as I drag it around I see my XY coordinates. And I'm not seeing it on my second monitor, so I'm not really sure if this is coming across. I'll have to check the webcast. But if you move anything on your page, you'll see this little pop-up with the smart dimensions. It's going to help me if I change the size of this image, and just in case it is working, I'm going to change the dimensions of this to something that's a regular dimension. Let me just grab this box and hold down my Shift key, which remember makes a rectangle a square. And I can see that the W and the H, my width and height, are matching as I increase the size or as I decrease the size with the smart dimensions. The other really neat thing about this, I'm going to fill this with something, is that we talked a little bit about this in a previous webcast, but if I take my selection tool and I hover over the right-hand corner of an object, the tool turns into a curved tool icon. And that means that if I start to rotate or drag, it will rotate my object around the center. And the smart dimension I'm seeing now is not the size of the object, I'm seeing its rotation angle. So where I am right now, rotating to the right, it's telling me it's at a negative 43.5 degree angle. And if I go up the other direction, counterclockwise, now it's telling me it's at 64. And if I hold the Shift key down, that is going to snap to 45 degree increments. So I'm here at 0, 45, 90, 135, and it just keeps going. So smart dimensions can be extremely helpful when you're drawing or resizing images on the fly. And you might ask, why would I use ruler guides or over smart guides? And my answer to that would be, I would think of ruler guides as a more permanent addition to your page design. You're going to use them like you would page margins. It's something that every page is going to need a certain alignment to a certain place on that page. And if you can't put it on a master page so that it can show up on every page, then having ruler guides is one of the next best things. because you know that when a user needs it, it's going to be there. Where my smart guides I think of as something that I do just on the fly. I want to move this over a little bit, or I've decided to change the position of an item on the page, and I just need a little bit of reinforced guidance telling me whether it's going in the position that I think it's going, without having to bring out another tool, another panel, or insert information into some sort of field in one of the other, or even the control panel. The ruler guides have been around since the beginning of InDesign, but we just got smart guides, as I said earlier, in CS4. And I think for the most part it's really been a positive item that's gotten quite a bit of feedback, that it really has helped people as they're designing. And I think it also helps production artists as well. There are certain tools in InDesign that are going to help a creative designer that maybe aren't going to be as big of a help to production artists, but I really feel like Smart Guides does something for all parties involved. So please take some time, create some frames, import some images, and play around with this particular feature, and I think you're going to really like it. All right, that's it for guides. Oh, you know what? Sorry. But let me back up a second. There is one more thing I forgot to mention in the previous one about guides. We have a step and repeat command in InDesign, and we can use that step and repeat command for items like, I'm just going to draw a little rectangle here just to show you how this would work. And I select this object. Actually, let me take that back. I don't like that one. I want to make this a regular square. Okay, and I'm going to place it here. Go to the Edit, Step and Repeat command. And right now, I'm going to say that I want this to have 10 repeats, and I want the vertical and horizontal offset to be just 1 pica. Oh, well, let's try that again. Let's make this only P6. Oops, that's what I did wrong. I totally messed up the horizontal. 50 picas. No wonder that didn't work. And let's say 6. And you can see before I even get out of the dialog how it has created 6 additional rectangles of the exact same size, and it has offset them 1 pica going in the vertical direction, 1 pica going in the horizontal direction. Now you may wonder, what in the world does that have to do with guides? Well, I can use this exact same feature with a guide. I can say, well, I want this guide to align to the margin. But instead of using ruler guides, which would extend either all the way across the page or from margin to margin, I can just highlight that particular guide, go to Step and Repeat, and say I really want that guide to be every 4 picas, and I would like 7 of them. And you can see that it has evenly spaced these for me without my having to draw each one, measure where it goes, drag the next one down, measure where it goes. And what's so great about this too is when I'm done with this and I've aligned things the way I wanted to, I just can drag across these, hit my backspace key, and they're gone, and yet my design is left. Okay, that was the last thing I wanted to talk about. So we're going to be moving forward into importing images so that you guys can start getting ready for preparation for your Lab 4. So we'll be talking about that in the next webcast. Thanks a lot.